Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Edric Show. I am your host, Edric Jerome. This is the place for intelligent conversation with interesting people. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell, and you'll get notified when I post content each and every week. My guest today is filmmaker Dave Kabbe. He is a producer, director with more than 20 years of experience in the film industry. His work includes producing, coordinating, and directing a wide range of projects from independent films, from television to live events. His career has taken him to war-torn regions where he has interviewed people and documented events such as genocide in various places and recent conflicts in Ukraine. Dave is here to discuss his directorial debut, the powerful short film Izidor. Izidor combines live action and animation to tell the true story of Izidor Ruckel, who grew up under very difficult circumstances in a Romanian orphanage. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Edric.
Couldn't wait to talk to you. I've been wanting to talk to you about your film, and I've had a chance to see it and meet you. It's just it's an amazing film. So let's get into it.
Okay.
The film is based, as I said, on the true story of Izidor Ruckel. What first drew you to his story, and what compelled you to tell it through this film?
Yeah, so back in 2015, I met Isidor and his friend and production partner, which I ended up producing the film with, Sarah Padbury. And so I was introduced to his story. I didn't know about it before then, and I was introduced to his story. And then just talking with them over the years about the story and about filmmaking, about what were the possibilities of a story like this, because we weren't really sure how it was going to all come together. And then in 2020, we decided to do a short film and not a feature film. And that's how it sort of developed from there. And it's been 5 years since we decided to go in that direction. So these things don't come around easy. It's 10 years since I met Isidor and Sarah. So this was really cool to actually have something to show people now.
Sure. Quick question off of that, because I think most folks don't understand or realize just how long it takes to produce a film, whether it's a short film or even a feature-length film. It can be a decade. It can be a long time. Talk to me about the process of filmmaking and, what people may not understand about why it takes so long.
Well, I think every story has its own journey, and other producers that I've read, directors I've read about, have that as well. And I remember going to the DGA and listening to Russell Crowe talk about The Water Diviner, a movie he wanted to direct and champion, and it took him like 10 or 15 years. And this is through him being the leading man, the top leading guy in the world at the time, a highest paid actor, everything. And so coming down to independent, I mean, rallying people around the story and resources. And I've tried to champion quite a few stories, and this one just seemed to, as the story sat with me and resonated with me, I first did all the research and did as much reading as I could about, him being on National Geographic and The Atlantic, and all these articles that were coming out in mainstream media, and looking at ABC News 2020, when Barbara Walters and Hugh Downs launched the story back in 1991, and it was like mainstream world global news. And so going in and reading his book and then researching on it, but it wasn't until later on of just, keeping that relationship alive and just kind of touching on it here and there that the story started to then formulate, and then also having a great production partner who's a writer to really start to put structure to it, and then you start to really feel it on the page and go, okay, well, this might really work, and then starting to put more and more chips in on that, like this is really going to work. And then I think once the momentum starts to pick up, people start to see that, and the story then begins to take on a form and shape of its own that then starts to collect champions of it, let's say. And then it's just a matter of staying the course, because you're right, it is a long, long process, and it takes a lot of resilience to keep it going.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
The film deals with deeply traumatic themes, particularly the treatment of disabled children in a Romanian orphanage. How did you balance the need to tell it and tell it in an honest and unflinching way but also not being exploitative and, just going for the purient aspects of it. How were you able to make sure that, because you brought beauty to this,
Well, thank you.
despite all of the trauma and some of the deeply disturbing sort of images that are in the film?
I would say that, I read early on about film where if the audience starts thinking about the filmmakers rather than the characters in the story, then you've lost them. Why are you making these choices as a filmmaker? And especially when it comes to exploitive, real content that would take you out of the shock you to take you out of the story, which led us to really critically think about how are we going to do, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest times 10x with the children in these asylums. Right. And then we're like, well, we can't show that imagery. It'll take people out of it. And then they'll start questioning, why did we put that footage in there? Because they didn't want that. So that helped us to come to the conclusion that animation was a tool. And so we started to go down that road, and that's where necessity became the mother of invention in that regard. And then balancing that with the live action world, and then how thematically it fit together to take a story, because a film isn't reality. We're not doing a documentary. We're kind of suspending the imagination a bit and keeping true to Isidor's his arc in his life.
Sure.
But then doing it in a compelling way. And how do you do that without going too far? And so that was really how we tested every choice along the path. And there was tons and tons and tons of back and forth. And so that kind of collaborative, open communication and a creative process really led us down, because then one of us would feel like, no, that isn't right. Or we'd make a choice, and then someone would come in and be like, no, I think we got to dial it back or dial it up. And then we just had an incredible creative team around us. And I think our first hire was our composer, and really giving the feeling and mood and to it all started to really help us to feel the images that we were then going to, put on screen. So, yeah.
As a filmmaker and producer, finding locations and shooting on locations is a challenge within itself. But you actually your team was able to shoot actually in Romania, correct? You guys went over there. So what was that process like? Which you said was 2020, so I don't know if COVID was in place yet or not. But tell me about the process of actually going to that location to shoot, and maybe some of the complexities or some of the challenges you may have faced doing that.
Yeah, an independent film, like an orphanage or anybody, you need a home to start with. Right. And so the most authentic place was the actual asylum. We shot at the actual asylum. And I don't want to get into why or how that fit into the story, because it kind of takes out of the experience of watching the film. But when we got there, there was a lot of unknowns. We didn't have a cast. We had a local producer. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to shoot at the asylum in the community. And then we were connected to the mayor of the town, who we then told what our story was and what we were trying to achieve. And then he gave us full access. And when we had that, then we knew we had a home. We have a home for our film. We can shoot in a safe place, and no one's going to shut us down. And that, for having done independent film in the past, I know that is a huge load off of a producer's mind and a director's mind. If you're always looking over your shoulder that, you're going to get shut down for whatever reason, it really puts a damper on the whole production. And then especially when you're putting resources behind it and you don't know, like, if you're going to lose a whole day or 2 days because you have to find new locations and this and that and the other thing. So, but then the authenticity of the real places that Isidor grew up in, that kind of impact was, I think there's no dollar amount you could put on that to really help get the real story and get the feel of the real story across.
Sure.
Because you, as an audience, you see the asylum, but then you see like the beauty of the area, the natural.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, beauty of it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of beauty, there are some beautiful moments. Again, we want people to watch the film, so we're not going to tell the story, but there's some beautiful moments with this loving and giving family. that he's able to experience as I look over it. Tell me about some of those moments when the spirit and the beauty of just what it means to connect with a family and to have him be exposed to that.
Great question, Edric. Yeah, well, first it has to be on the page.
Right.
Right. And so we had a really good start. The theme of the film, the tagline of the film is to belong is to be alive. To belong is to be alive. And that really resonates in the home, in the film, that part of it.
Sure.
Right. When Isidor had never known a home, never known what a family was, let alone had he had fresh, clean air and put his feet in grass and touch trees and different things that he experiences.
Sure.
But then to go into a loving, caring home, have a warm cooked meal with a family, and to experience that for the first time. And we wanted to give the audience a feeling that they were there with him, that's them going in to have dinner, and it's them having dinner for the first time,
right.
And to feel that warmth, or even think about their own family and how blessed they were to have those moments in life. And so it is, it's the heart of the film, really. And what is the film is centered on is how much a family and a belonging can do to anyone. So.
Absolutely. Beyond telling a powerful story, what's the social impact you hope Isidor will have? And are there specific conversations or actions that you hope people, after they watch it, will be inspired to do?
Plenty. It's an advocacy film first. And so we want people to see the film and to do courageous acts of kindness themselves. So there's two parts of that. Where one is if you're a person who's going through trauma, and you're following Isidor's emotional journey, and that's resonating with you, and it's drawing up things for you. We want you to be able to this film to allow you to have conversations around that with professionals or with family, loved ones, and caring people who care about you. And this is a great way for this film to do that. I say that, I don't care if you watch it on a huge screen, your cell phone,
Sure.
television, but watch it with someone else. Watch it with others so you can have these conversations. Film like this is meant to be shared. Mm-hmm. And that kind of sharing of that community allows you to have a conversation, even with with a stranger, to say, "Wow, I just want to talk about what this meant to me," right? And then with if you're as an audience following Onisha
mm-hmm.
in this film, then you're leaning towards advocacy,
Yeah.
And acts of courageous kindness, because it cost her something. It wasn't just some random act that she did to a stranger, like picking up something off the floor that they dropped or walking an old lady across the street. It was actually something where she could have been thrown in prison
Right.
at the time, because
Right.
children with disabilities weren't really allowed out, right? And so she was doing something that was risking something and at her level in life in Communist Romania at the time, I mean, they're on a thin margin, so it could have really affected the whole family for her to get reprimanded or lose her job or whatever for that. So for those who are connected to that, for them to step into advocacy. And so we're already creating partnerships with organizations so that the film can plug you into those organizations. And we like the organizations that can plug you into many things. A lot of film will just be like, well, we support this one nonprofit avenue, like it's support orphan kids in one country, and that's it. Mm-hmm. But we want this film to inspire you to use your giftings and where you're called and what you feel like, where can I plug into my local community or internationally? And then those are the organizations that can then say, hey, here, all of these. So, that's where the advocacy comes in. Sure. Yeah. And we don't say that in the film, but we say that as filmmakers and talking about it.
Sure. If I can, I want to ask you, because with my podcast, I get a chance to talk to a lot of filmmakers, directors, actors, people who are really involved in the film creating industry, in the film world. And I always ask them this question. What advice would you give to especially given your long history and your many accomplishments in filmmaking and producing and directing, what's some of the advice you would give for filmmakers who are just starting out, who may want to go down the path of telling stories on film? What are some of the things that maybe you learned over the years and maybe you wish you'd known then, or just what advice would you give someone who's just starting out as a filmmaker?
Run. It's an interesting question now because it's the industry itself is in a strange place, and same with AI coming in and changing the landscape a little bit, or at least the idea of the perception of the landscape, right?
Right.
And projecting into the future what it's actually going to look like. And then from a producing standpoint, I have produced quite a bit over the years, but this is my directing debut. And I liken it to like taking all the kids to the park. and as a director, I got to just be one of the kids and play in the sandbox with all the other kids.
Sure.
You know, and as a producer, you're like the parent at the park who, you know, has all the other kids from the whole neighborhood, and you're like, get off of that, don't touch that, you know. And so it's I feel like it's two different things, and you know, it takes, from an independent standpoint, it takes a lot of belief to really stay the course, because a lot of times it doesn't make any sense. You know, it really doesn't. There's a lot of, and you know this, where you're like looking at it and you're like, wow, that is a strange career choice. Most people will try to talk you out of it, you know, especially parents or anybody who cares about your future and is looking at your long-term goals and long-term life and all of that. Right. But the payoff for it is something, when you're putting it on a screen, is something really cool, because it'll live there potentially, well, forever. Right. And if you have a passion for storytelling, a real passion for storytelling, and you just love it, then I always encourage to continue in that path. And for sort of advice, maybe even technically just learn your craft, you know, and surround yourself with people that share your same, they don't have to share your vision, but share goals with you, you know, and then know where your strengths and weaknesses are, where you can plug into other people's projects and they can plug themselves into yours. And with success comes some strange conversations and some strange things, because not everybody, you can't bring everybody with you, you know? Right. And I've certainly had friends gain quite a bit of success, and you want people to be happy for you, and to, you know, support, as I would for others who I support. So yeah, surrounding yourself with good people, and don't be afraid to fall down quite a few times, a lot more than most other industries, I think. Absolutely.
Just a couple minutes left, so let me ask you now. One, I think we kind of touched on it. What do you want people to walk away from after seeing this film? But two, if people want more information about the film, more information about some of the issues you raised in the film, more information about you, where can they go to get more information about Izidor?
IsidorStory.com.
Short and sweet.
You go to IsidorStory.com, and there's a press kit on there and all of the story information. We're going to do a release of the film 2026, early 2026, if not sooner. And then we have some exciting news that'll be coming out. So definitely sign up for our, email campaign.
Sure.
For the news that's coming out on the film, if you're interested in following along. And so it's exciting. We're right now in a fun, exciting time, because with the disruption of the theaters closing and the world sort of, where is film going? For an independent filmmaker like myself, I see all that chaos and go, where's the opportunity?
Absolutely.
You know, where can we find that opportunity? And I feel that advocacy is such an amazing way of getting film out to the world, with its purpose first and foremost to be advocacy. Whereas I think in the past, and especially within the studio structure, is the movie goes out into the world and makes as much money as it can, And then once it starts to taper down, then they're like, well, let's plug it into advocacy and see what we can get out of it, right? And I want to flip that over, and that's what we're doing. And I'm hoping that it is something that works, obviously. And so I'm excited about that opportunity to advocacy first.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to you and your amazing team. It's a very powerful film, and it sticks with you, which is, the great cinema, the great movies stick with you. Things throughout the day remind you of it, even after you've seen it. And this film does that. So, again, congratulations to you and your team. I want to thank you for coming on the Edric Show, and continued success, man.
Thanks,
appreciate
Edric.
it.
I appreciate you, man.
Oh,
Thank you for having me here.
Of course. All right, my guest has been Dave Kabbe. He is the filmmaker, producer, and director of the short film Izidor, the powerful short film which chronicles Izidor Ruckel's growing up in an orphanage in Romania. Once you see this film, it will affect you, so I encourage you to see it when you can. So, Dave, again, thank you so much for coming on the Edric Show. This has been another edition of the Edric Show. I am your host, Edric Jerome. As promised, intelligent conversation with interesting people. Hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You'll get notified when I post content each and every week. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next episode.